Strong Enough merch is now available. Go to strongenoughpod.com and see all the things that you can get to show your strong enough pride, as well as remind people and yourself that you are strong enough and you are worth it. Welcome to the Strong Enough Podcast, where we talk about the challenges and celebrate the triumphs of people from all walks of life. I'm your host, Claudia. Today's guest is a singer-songwriter who shares music with a message. She's going to talk about what inspires her, what fears she has, and why it's important that we all help one another succeed. Please help me welcome Caley Rose. Caley, how are you doing today?
Hi, good. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited for you to be here because we have known each other not that long, but I was immediately drawn to your energy and your personality. So I'm stoked that you're here today.
I'm stoked to be here. Thank you so much. That's so kind. I was drawn to you. Sometimes you feel a vibe and you're like, that's my kind of person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in our brief time that we've chatted before we started recording, we even found some other things that we have in common that we just might talk about today.
Teaser.
Right? So now you got to keep listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we jump in, though, to all the good stuff, I would love it if you would tell the audience a little bit about you.
So my name is Caley Rose. I am a singer and a songwriter. My music has been on the Billboard charts all across the country on the radio, and one of my songs just crossed the 100,000 streams mark, which was very exciting. Thank you. I also am the creator of a program called Music with a Message, where I bring music into schools. I say I bring confidence tools into schools. So I teach kids some self-esteem tools, I empower them with music, and we have a lot of fun.
I love all of that because I remember music in school, and I'm just going to say it was less than fun.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I think they have to teach us, the fundamentals. And some people are interested in classical and orchestral and all of that, but I was never allowed to, in school, engage in pop music. It was this kind of like closeted thing that I enjoyed because I was pushed more into the classical and the opera and the musical theater as a singer. Not to say anything for I had a wonderful education. It's just that there was no representation of pop music there. And so, I'm coming in and I'm kind of talk rapping and I'm doing my singer-songwriter thing, and I'm definitely shaking it up with the kids. But it's changed. I've also heard my friend teaches Ableton. He teaches electronic music production in a school in Westchester. So things have changed, probably for the better, luckily.
So we missed out, is what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
basically we missed out. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's
Of
not fun.
course. Yeah.
So you talked about music with a message, and I would love for you to talk more about that, particularly with what you do in schools, because so much of what we hear these days, are all the negative things that are happening in schools and on social media. So I would love to hear what you're bringing in that's different and impactful.
Thank you. Just about a year ago, I woke up and was like, you know what? I was bullied in middle school, and I want to somehow reach kids and help them through that experience because it happens to most of us. If you're in a group of adults, the likelihood, if you ask, hey, was anyone bullied as a kid? Most people raise their hand. I should get that percentage at some point, but it's high. Yeah. So I had that experience, and I thought if there's anything I can do to alleviate that pain and give kids tools to self-esteem, because I had zero tools, zero self-esteem. And getting bullied made my self-esteem go from, a normal kid just going through life like a goofball to zero. And I spent over a decade wanting to be other people instead of wanting to be myself. It was really, really painful. And so I go into schools, I sing my empowering music, which it's all original, but it lent itself to that message really easily. And I've written more since, including my song Stand Up that came out 2 weeks ago. It's very empowering and it helps people, kids and women and all people stand up. So I bring it in, I get them dancing, I get them participating, and I give them my tools because I think that kids listen to pop stars a little bit more than they listen to other people. So I'm using that for good.
Which is amazing
Yeah.
because I think, that is an issue in our society a little bit is the people that are being chosen as role models.
Mhm.
So, what is it like for you to be that pop star, but
Mhm.
also be that truly positive role model that kids really need and deserve?
I'm trying here. Now that I hadn't been going into schools before a year ago, and so now that I am, I'm like, oh, I got to be careful. That I don't swear and I don't, talk about certain things that I might have talked about before as a normal adult. So now I am kind of putting that spotlight on myself to make sure that I'm careful and setting a good example, but also being a real human who's like, hey, life can be messy and people make mistakes, because I think that's a big part of what informs our self esteem is how we talk to ourselves. And a lot of how we talk to ourselves is not when it's easy and it's good, it's when things are low. Are we really hard on ourselves, or do we acknowledge that every human makes mistakes?
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think we like to say we acknowledge that, but
Hmm.
we kind of don't, or we're harder. I know I'm harder on myself, than I am others,
Hmm.
and want myself to be perfect, which
Yes.
is ridiculous.
Doesn't exist.
Right. So
Yeah.
how do you teach, and I know you all kids, but young girls especially, that perfection doesn't exist and that's okay.
Yeah. I've been learning more and more about self esteem, and I'm going to the experts to try to make sure it's not just because I think we all have heard by now mantras are really helpful, but it's not the only key thing. And it needs to be backed up by evidence. So now I'm going in and saying, okay, let's not just close our eyes and say, I'm amazing, because it's kind of not empty, but it's not as full as I would like that supporting evidence to be. So now I'm saying, okay, now think back to 3 things that you've achieved this week, even if it's just getting out of bed, even if it's just, wiping your own behind, things like that. And we can start small, and then that shows us, okay, I did something well today. All right, well, that builds my confidence to next time, and then my achievements will hopefully grow from that. So I think that's a key to self esteem, one of many.
I love that you said that because, there are some days that getting out of bed or wiping your own behind
Yes.
simply is all that you could muster up, and that's okay.
That had to be the example I chose in that moment. Yeah, sometimes I don't think before I speak, and this is where we are now. Often, often I don't think before I speak.
Well, I love it. I'm
It's
okay
true
with
though.
it.
Yeah.
So, you talked about bullying and how
Yes.
prevalent it is. And, even though there's only two of us on the screen, we did both raise our hands
Yep.
when you talked about being bullied. And, we are both, white women,
Mm-hmm.
a class of people that a lot of people would look at and say, well, you weren't bullied, that can't be right.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting bullied. And what do you think is causing that in our young society?
Mm. So many things, right? And I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I've heard it, before, hurt people hurt people. So I was terrorized by this one girl in middle school, and I only did the reciprocal act once, but I do remember saying to another girl, like something about a bow in her hair. How, and like it haunts me to this day. I've thought about reaching out to her on Facebook, and she, I hope, would say, what are you talking about? I did not care about that. But it could have been, something that hurt her for the rest of her life. So, yeah, hurt people hurt people. And it's like the basic being kind will, pay dividends forward for other people. But we all have those moments, right? Like a couple years ago, I realized I need to be a kinder driver. Because when we're in a car, I don't know. We have this steel. Is it made of steel? I should know this. My husband is very into cars. Fortress around us that gets to protect us, and we can just be ranting and raving or cutting people off. So then I started to think, okay, I got to let people in front of me just to give them a better energy for their day. So it's such a simple answer, and yet we all have the hardest time with it.
I also have struggled with that. I am
Yeah.
way better at it, but mine came not from a place of peace and kindness like yours
Huh.
did. But mine came from a place of safety.
Huh.
We live in a world now and you just don't know what that other driver A has going on in their life, but B has as a weapon in their car. It's
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the stories that you must have. Like, have you been in very terrible can I ask? Is that okay?
Yes, I have been.
I'm
I mean,
speechless.
I have responded to terrible situations as a
Uh-huh.
police officer.
You must learn a lot of lessons. Are you
Yes.
those people that will go into a room and immediately assess all the exits and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yes, I'll do exits. I'll do, where could I hide? What could I get behind that will stop a bullet? What could I get behind that might not stop a bullet, but at least will hide me? Because
Ooh.
those are different things.
Uh,
So it's exhausting, Kaylee.
and
It
it's just
really
a
is.
quick assessment, like as soon
Mhm.
as you walk in any room. Wow.
Yes, and then I'll start thinking through it, kind of like if I have nothing else going on, it's like, "Okay, I did see that door over there, now let me break it down a little further
Yeah.
into what I might have to do if something goes awry."
Oh my goodness. But it's self-preservation, your body is trying to protect itself and stay alive. It's
Right, so I'll
smart.
take it. I want to stay alive, which
Yeah,
is
me too.
something we were chatting about earlier.
You are. I have a lot of death anxiety. We've talked about this and I'm working
Let's
through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, let's dive into that
So
because I
crazy.
don't think a lot of people talk about it. To be
No.
honest with you, and I told you a minute ago, and I'll say it for everybody, for me, sometimes it is crippling.
Yeah.
It comes in phases, and the phases are fewer and far between
Yeah.
now than they were before, but
Yeah.
it will literally be sleepless nights
Yeah.
of fearing death and what happens,
Yep.
and I
We just
struggle.
don't know. Not to
Right,
give anyone the anxiety, but that's the scary part.
right,
I
and we're
do have
supposed to have
faith.
faith.
Yes.
Right,
But it's the what if. It's the what if. Then that's it's
right.
like Hamlet, right?
When did you notice that as a thing for you, that anxiety?
It for me, it was flying. Again, I don't wanna trigger anyone, so we should say, like, trigger
Well,
warning. Yeah, but it just all of a sudden, my grandfather had passed away, and I realized, how real mortality was, and I was on a plane, and all of a sudden, I was like, "Whoa, I am not meant to be in the air," and it just started happening, and I didn't tell a flight attendant or anything, I eventually just started breathing, and it's happened several times since like, watching The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston one time. And my husband was just like,
okay,
"What is going on? Why?" Because she had a stalker and it was scary, but
right.
it's a little scary bit of a movie. But the thing that a friend told me recently, two things that helped me just to like get those right out of the way in case anybody's like, I gotta stop listening to this. And I want to ask you what helps you getting into my body. So my husband one time didn't even realize what he was doing, but he just started rocking me back and forth like a baby. And that rhythm really helped me. And they say like to really feel your physicality. And then another friend, I haven't tried this one yet, but he said get curious about your anxiety because apparently anxiety and curiosity cannot exist at the same time. Someone told me that about gratitude too. Like bad emotions and gratitude cannot coexist in your mind. If anybody is just listening, I have an X now formed between my hands. So I haven't tried that one yet, but who knows? Maybe that'll help. What has helped you?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because without knowing it, I feel like I have done the curiosity piece. It
Uh-huh.
helps, but I
Huh.
didn't know
And
that
you
I
did the
was
piece that I haven't done.
right, but just kind of thinking it through and thinking about what are the options and I guess then kind of thinking about was it really that bad? And maybe this is a terrible way to look at it, but I'm like, "Oh, if I just die and then I'm just no longer exist,
Uh-huh.
well, I'm not gonna know." So, I
Not here to worry
guess
about it.
right, like I if nothingness will suck, but will it? And as we were talking earlier, I feel like when you are faith-based, then you're not supposed to have those questions or that anxiety. And so then I feel, well, am I not a good Christian? Am I not believing enough because I have this anxiety? What do
Mhm.
you think about that? Like, are you spiritual or
Well,
faith?
yes, I'm spiritual with someone, which someone in California one time made fun of me for saying because it was just like everybody in California is spiritual. But I am. I was raised Christian and I call it God, the universe. I think we are all saying the same things, people. But I have had very distinct signs. And so that's when I start to feel guilty because I'm like, whatever it is has really said, okay, you need a sign, here's a sign. Okay, you need a sign, here's a sign. Have you had, I don't even remember if I'm answering your question, but I'm asking you another question.
I
Have
love
you
it.
had signs in like those moments?
Yes.
Uh,
So, and I would say most of my signs have come when my dogs have passed away. So, I've
oh,
had 2 in the last just over a year.
wow.
One of them was 17.
Oh,
So, I mean, he was with me for, longer than a lot of people's kids, how old their kids are.
yeah.
But I have gotten signs in those regards where after they passed away, something will happen. Like I will literally feel them on the bed. And
Ah,
that happened recently where like one of our dogs especially would like kind of turn around and thunk down right beside my leg. And I
oh,
felt that. And here's the thing,
ah,
most people when you feel something on your bed at night, you're going to freak out if it's not supposed to be there.
ah.
But I wasn't because I knew I was like, "That's Chance. Chance is here, and everything's fine." I would say most of my signs have come in those forms of kind of appearances of my animals, and
That's amazing.
maybe that's because I'm more open to it now, whereas
Yeah,
maybe previously, I just wasn't
yeah.
because in the last year it's happened.
Oh, that's incredible. So incredible. I absolutely believe that. And I had the same, it was a comforting experience. When my grandfather passed away, my parents were living in Maryland. The funeral was in Buffalo. And in Buffalo, a couple things happened where we all stopped in our tracks and looked at each other and were like, did that just happen? Like my little brother, he was 1.5, he wasn't talking at all. And then he looked up as soon as we wheeled him into the funeral home and said, Grandpa. And we all stopped in our tracks. And then he said it a second time. And we were all just like, are you kidding me? And then we met with the priest, and the priest said, yes, I do believe that dogs or animals and children are much closer to it because they believe and they're open minded in that way. And so they will sense things much more than we do. And then a couple other things happened, like the TV was going crazy in my grandmother's house. Things were falling in a room. And we went from Buffalo all the way back to Maryland all together as a family. And we were sitting there just still grieving one night, and my grandma said, I wish we knew he was here because we felt him so strongly in Buffalo. Nanoseconds later, something fell that was not, precariously placed on a shelf. And we just knew. And it was like you're saying, this comfort. And yet still, I feel like such a,
Right.
I
I
don't
feel like
know.
an asshole. That's what
Yeah,
I
there
feel
we
like,
go.
Kaylee.
There
I
we go.
feel like an asshole.
Yes, because I keep just worrying and asking for more, 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 more. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder in life if we are allowed to ask for more. Because I think a lot of us, I mean, this is kind of a different topic, but I feel guilty being so blessed and then saying, okay, can I get this though? Because this would be fun. But my girlfriend kind of alleviated that in me maybe a year ago when we were talking about that. Because I was like, I'd love a beach house someday. I want a house on the beach in Los Angeles and I want my music to pay for it. And we're going to have that experience. But I feel guilty because I'm already so lucky. And she said, but you are here on earth. You know that those things exist. And so having a full life is experiencing everything. And so you shouldn't feel guilty that you want those things. So that's where I am with that.
I
Here.
love that because I feel like, the only reason you should feel guilty is if you were cutting other people down or, screwing over somebody else to get your
That's
beach
true.
house.
Yeah.
But if you are putting it out there in the
Yeah.
universe, you
Yeah.
deserve it.
Yeah. That's true. We all deserve, that's the thing. It does,
Right.
yeah, you're right. It's not pushing someone else down or putting them down. That's
Right.
bullying. It's just, I want the goodness for everyone. I have this theory that, like, truly, if everyone was living their purpose, there are people who would be doing things, professions that I would not be happy doing. We
Right.
were all put here for specific enjoyments. And there are people who look at me sometimes performing on stage and are just like, I have zero interest in doing that, you know?
I would love to do it, but nobody wants to hear me sing.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, I think everyone can be trained, you know?
don't tell me that because I was recently saying I need a karaoke song. Like
Um,
I need something that I can pull out and
yeah.
do not terrible.
Uh-huh.
So,
I have
maybe
coached people for the purpose of karaoke in my life.
I mean, sign
It's
me
so
up.
fun. Yeah, it's so fun. It was such a fun purpose, but there was this girl in New York, and that was her sole goal. She just wanted to be great at karaoke, and I was like, "Great, let's do it." And she ended up singing Celine Dion and nailing it and just being the proud woman she was.
I am in.
This
I
is
am
a goal
so
I can get.
in.
That's wonderful.
You mentioned, well, both of us mentioned,
Mhm.
pushing other people down or not doing that. And I feel like women
Mm,
are good at that, at pushing other people down or being jealous of one another, not supporting each other, not celebrating our accomplishments for one another.
mhm.
Why do you think we as a gender
Yes.
continue to do that instead of saying, man, I'm going to cheer for Kaylee every step of the way. She's going to cheer for me. We can both be successful.
Yeah, it's that scarcity mentality. And like even that girl in middle school, I was jealous of her because she was like the new girl in the friend group and I had previously been the new girl in the friend group and I felt like there could only be one new girl. And I still catch myself these days. Like, you and I met in Jen Gottlieb's group and in this mastermind, I there's a lot of coaches and a lot of entrepreneurs and I was like, okay, first of all, like, is this the right place for me? Because I'm an entertainer in this way. But then there was another musician, and I thought, I'm supposed to be the only musician in this group. No, 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 no. Not at all. So when you come from that scarcity mindset, but I felt the thought. I just have learned enough to absolutely push it away because that is not a healthy place to operate from. And that's what creates bullying in schools, thinking that only one of us can be special. But really, we all rise together. The rising tide, what is it, floats all ships or something like that. It's so true. And when you bring people in because you're not afraid, then the magic happens.
Yes. And it's also interesting to hear it from a different perspective. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is when I saw you in that group and in your little Zoom tag, you had, I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly, but you probably know, but it was clear that you were a musician, an
Uh,
entertainer, a writer. And literally the first thing I thought was, well, that's really cool.
Aw,
She's
thank you.
different than
Yeah.
everybody else in here, and she's here. She had the guts and the courage to come in here with a
Mhm.
different perspective and maybe a different agenda and different things to learn. So
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and now that other singer and she's a different genre anyway, it doesn't, even if we were the same genre, we are two different individuals. We are going to do two different things in life, and there really is room for everyone. There's enough room in the sky for all the stars. All of those cliche sayings that I'm now quoting. But now she's in the small group with me, our little pod, and when she was in there, I thought, but I'm supposed to be the only. No, no, no. Because then when the coach works with her, I'm also getting the feedback that she's giving her and I'm getting my little time. So it's only beneficial. But if you look at it from the threatened, scared place, it's not a great place to be. And I really think at our core, nobody wants to feel that way. We're all just here to feel happy and good and be kind to other people. But it's like the scarcity of resources that makes us think there can only be one.
Only one of me.
Yeah. I'm
What
like,
is one tip that you would give to people to flip that mindset when they're having that moment of, but wait, she can't also succeed. If
uh-huh.
I am to succeed, she cannot.
Yeah.
What is something that you would say to somebody in that
I
moment?
also understand like there is some justification to that because my husband and I have talked about it at length when I got really into manifesting, and you can call it prayer, you can call it manifesting, whatever you want to call it. And he said, sometimes there really is only one position at a company, and then I think the faith has to come in because it's okay. Well, if I didn't get it, it really wasn't meant for me, and it's opening the door to something better. But I myself, Caley Rose, like believe that girl because I have a very hard time with that. I love to be in control. I love to push and work hard. And I'm a very determined person. My 3-year-old daughter is the same way. My gosh, if she doesn't get what she wants, it is the worst. My mom was the same way. So I understand really wanting a goal and being really disappointed when you don't get it if there is only one position. But it's the faith, right? You just
Mhm.
have to let go and think, okay. And like, don't we all have those moments in life where we look back, like every freaking guy I ever wanted in New York, like every guy I just like prayed would love me. I now look back and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why that didn't work out. And thank God I got to my husband, you know?
I mean, I look at some of the people I shouldn't even say this, but I'm going to because that's
Yeah,
what I do here.
yeah.
I look at some of the people that I had crushes on in high school, and I am like, "Holy shit." Thank
Not the
God.
yeah. Yeah, it's not anything against them, it's just not the right fit, you know?
Right.
And boy, was I gonna try to make it fit, a round peg in a square hole. It's everyone's gonna listen back to this and be like, "She needs to work on her idioms." Like, she says she's a writer. No, but I realize it's a square peg in a round hole. But it just wasn't the right person. But at the time, you think it's the be all end all. You think that job is the be all end all, that experience that you want. And I think that's where the faith comes in, which to me, the letting go is the hardest part.
Yes, I would
Right?
agree with you.
Uh,
What is it like for you to not only perform, but to
mhm.
write as well?
I love, love, love it. I used to like in talking about the low self-esteem and stuff, I used to hate being alone, hate spending time with just myself. And I think once I went alone in my mind, it wasn't a healthy place. So then working on my self-esteem, I had to work to get to liking myself, and then I was able to get to love myself. And then finding songwriting opened up a whole nother thing because now if I'm by myself, I'm working on a puzzle. I'm trying to figure out how the syllable count will work in that line in that song, and I have so much to do in my mind. So I think, as humans, we have a lot of creativity, we have a lot of imagination, and it can work for or against us. I have a niece and she has such anxiety when she goes to sleep. And so I keep telling her, this can be really powerful because it's what helps you do all these awesome things and create all these art projects. But also, it can, the shadows can come out in your mind because you can get scared. You can scare yourself. And I do that too when I'm alone. So I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, that's what songwriting has helped me with a lot. And I also think it's therapy, but for free. Journaling, I think, is
Yes.
the best tool in the absolute world. And so when you're a songwriter, all of a sudden you're getting, Ed Sheeran has this analogy where he's like, you go to like an old pipe and you turn the faucet on and like the sludge comes out first. It's like all the just like garbage that needed to come out, all the stuff that you could have worked on in therapy, but now you're working on it as a songwriter. And then eventually you get to a healthier place. But yeah, it's also done that for me. So I highly recommend that above, drugs and alcohol and all of those things too.
I would second that.
Yeah. I mean, I love a martini and I love a margarita, but in tandem, they work together nicely.
Right, and when your martini or your margarita is your go-to at
Mhm.
7:30 AM,
Yeah.
maybe
Maybe get a journal.
reassess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pull out a
maybe.
pen.
Right, I
I
love
know
it.
it's not always that easy for everyone, right? But from my more positive place and healthier person than I was, 10, 15 years ago, I can say, yeah, pull out a journal.
What
Yeah.
inspires you when it comes to writing your music? Because, stand up is very much like an anthem, I think.
Thanks.
That's how I see it, and it's so uplifting and empowering to another person. So it's really saying, "You are great.
Mm,
You are amazing. You can fight."
mm.
How is that, as an inspiration, what brings that to you?
Yeah. Well, that song in particular, we sat down, two co-writers and I. We loved getting together. It was us three females, and we would all bring like something to eat for lunch and share our little potluck, and it was adorable. And we set out to write an empowering song, but to make it something that's not cheesy is a whole other challenge. And so I think we did a good job finally in grounding it and giving it a real place. And at first, it wasn't a song that I thought I was going to sing. I thought it was meant for someone else. I don't know. It just, I didn't feel the courage to step forward and say, hey, I'd like to sing the song. I was hoping that somebody would point to me and say, you sound great, but nobody's going to volunteer you. Well, sometimes people will, but most often you have to be the one to stand up and raise a hand. So yeah, we set out to write an empowering song. And what inspires me? Everything, conversations. Someone will just say something and it'll just kind of throw me, and I'll think, ooh, that's a good hook or that's a good chorus. But I like now, I'm trying to just be more authentic and create from my life, instead of writing things that I'm like, oh, I could hear that in a commercial, you know. So this is kind of an era of I'm writing more authentic stuff and more, yeah, because like right before I was a songwriter, I just listened to what other people said would be good, and I listened to a lot of other people other than myself, and it had nothing to. They were wonderful. It was just me. I wasn't listening to my heart and my spirit and my own voice. I was letting other people's voices overshadow it. So they were great. It was my own fault.
When it came down to it, to sing
Mhm.
that song, what finally gave you the push to say, "I want to do this"?
It kept knocking on the walls of my mind. And so I think if you have an idea, it can be anything. I had a children's book idea that I'm now working on because it kept coming back and I kept thinking, oh, that is a good idea. I should do something with that. And that song, we tried to hire a singer on this website called Sound Better. I don't even know. I don't remember why that fell through, but it was obviously meant to. At the time, it probably felt really serious and bad. And then another friend of mine we brought on, and we were hoping she would cut it as an artist, and she still might. It just was taking so darn long. And I get it. Like, sometimes, especially as an artist, you just have certain songs that take precedent, and then you might write five more and one of those will stand out. And then you might write 20 more and only two of those will stand out. So I totally get why it wasn't being created. And then I wanted to create it. And so I was like, I hope it's okay. Is it okay if I make this song? And she said, absolutely yes. Because she didn't have that scarcity mentality. Circle back around. She just had the abundance of, yeah, we can both create the song. It'll be no problem. So, still working on it. We're always a work in progress, we humans, as
Yes,
long
we
as we're doing it
are.
right, right?
We're trying, we're
Yeah,
trying.
I think it's a good thing that we keep trying.
What do you wanna teach your three-year-old?
Ha. Well, I don't have to teach her to be strong and confident because she's got that one down. So I think my husband and I both hope that she has the confidence that we did not have. So I'm hoping that I can teach her to love herself first and foremost and respect herself first and foremost, because I gave my heart away so easily. I gave my value away so easily. If people told me that, they were someone big shot to work with, I would believe them and give them my money. Like I was just I did not know my own value at all. It's no one's fault but my own, I guess. Like you can say, well, why? Was it the parents? Was it the education? No, it was just circumstance, and that was my battle to fight. We all have something.
I so appreciate you saying that because
Yeah.
I feel like one of the places where so many people struggle is with responsibility
Yeah.
and being able to say,
Mm,
"Yeah, like, I messed up,"
yeah.
or "That happened.
Mm,
It just happened. I don't have to be victim-y about it. I don't have to let it, hover over me for years and years,
yeah.
but it happened and I'm ready to move forward." Have you
Yeah.
always been like that, or was there a point in life where you were able to figure out that there was a better way?
Yeah, I think, well, maybe I think that everyone has this experience in therapy, but my experience in therapy was you go in and you figure out, this is why I'm like that, and this is why I'm like that. And it's a lot of like blaming your past and blaming your parents. But then on the other side of all of that is finally, like you're saying, accepting responsibility and saying, those are all the facts of my past and that's what they are. Now, what the heck am I going to do about it? Because I can keep blaming it and saying, oh, poor me, or yeah, the victim mentality. Or I can say, cool, I'd rather be happy. I'd rather be strong. I'd rather be confident because it's a choice. It really is. And I'm not minimizing it, but like it takes a lot of work. And like you're talking to someone who's been through a lot of therapy. You know what I'm saying?
Same, like, I feel like I
Yeah.
should have a punch card, and I feel like, though, a lot of people do, they get through the blamey stuff and figure out, whose fault it is, and then they just stop going,
Yeah.
and they land in that space
Yeah.
of blame and victim and
Totally.
everything else. So keep going to therapy. When you get to the
Right?
blame stuff,
Yeah.
keep going.
There's
Don't stop
more on the other
there.
side. Yeah.
Right.
You can choose it. I mean, I was just talking with my husband about this. There was a moment during quarantine where I not proud of it, but I said to him, "Hey, like you know that I need to get out of the house. You should initiate our like taking walks. You should initiate us getting out of the house." He does not need to get out of the house as much as I need to get out of the house. My girlfriend the other day said, "You need a lot more sunlight than other people." I guess I do. I love vitamin D. That is my responsibility. Like, it's really nice when our partner or our friend or our parent guesses, like that secret birthday gift we've never told them about in our back of our mind, or guesses that we're going to need to go for a walk. But it's really our job to make ourselves happy. And if we're lucky enough to have the means to do so, cool, do it, you know?
Why is that so hard for people? Because we do rely so
Mm,
much on our partner
mm,
or our parents, and we
mm.
blame them for our lack of happiness.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, maybe it's what they're not to that. What am I calling it? The third step of therapy?
Oh, right. Yeah, they got to keep going after the
Keep going.
responsibility part.
Yeah, but I think it is the hardest part to look in the mirror and say, today I noticed and I thought, okay, I don't care if it's 30 degrees. I need to go outside because I know it's going to make me happy. But it's easy to stick in those habits and stay comfortable instead of get a little uncomfortable. I went outside, I was a little uncomfortable, but in the totality of the day, it was better for me to be in 30 degrees and get uncomfortable. So, yeah, I think as humans we want to be comfortable, but everything happens on the other side of the discomfort, right? What is, again, they're going to be like, Kaylee, idioms. Everything is on the other side of fear or something like
Or
that. They say
everything
it. Everything you
every
want?
all the good things happen outside of your comfort zone is
Yes. Everything you
something.
want is on the other side of fear. All of those things.
We just need a list of them at this point, and we can,
There
like,
we go.
point to them,
Yes.
like a
And I'll put it in a
TikTok.
song and I'll change it. And then it'll be
Right.
good.
No, I love it, create your own.
Yeah,
That's what you're here to do.
totally. That's what we're here to do.
What what is up next for you? What are your plans? Where are you taking yourself? Where are you going?
So right now we are renovating an Airstream trailer to take it on tour. The tour has kind of taken off without the trailer because a radio station reached out about almost exactly a year ago and wanted me to come to their summer kickoff show. And so then we didn't have this Airstream to live in or travel with, but we still went and stayed with friends and stayed in Airbnbs. And then we just kind of kept going. I did a show in New Orleans, I did a show in Charlotte. But at some point, that renovation is going to be done in the next few months, and then we're going to tour all around. I'm bringing my music with a message show all around the country. Next comes Los Angeles and then the New York area. And I'm releasing a song on April 7th. I keep doing this on social media.
I like it. I like
Called
it.
Storm. Yeah, it's called Storm. It's an empowering song. And I want to take this motivation and empowering music not just to schools, but also to, I don't know, women's empowerment events, and become a keynote speaker for things like this. So I want to rock all the stages and I want to empower all the people. Like,
I love it. And
yeah.
will your whole family go on this?
Mhm. The cockapoo, the toddler, the husband, and the wife. Yes.
Talk a little bit about that decision, because you do see a lot of people who tour a lot and they do it without their family or their family pops in, and
Yeah.
that's got to be a struggle.
Yeah.
So, what led you guys to make this decision that we are going to do this as a
Huh.
family?
Yeah, it's funny. So we've been really fortunate. My husband works remotely. He's in user experience design, and I, in addition to music, work in voiceover. So we've always been pretty mobile, and then we realized just how mobile we could be. But like I said, I have a 3-year-old, and so at some point, everybody tells us that we're gonna have to put down roots, but that point is not now. Yeah, and even then, people do it, there's no rule book. So we'll see. When it came down to quote unquote putting down roots in California, I just wasn't ready. And I got this wandering spirit and desire. And so we decided to do this crazy plan that now brought us to Kansas City, renovating when we can. And I don't know, we're just crazy enough to do it, basically.
So it sounds like you would advocate for going
Mhm.
for it.
Yes. I think the thing, I mean, I felt truly bananas leaving. We had a cute little place in a cute little neighborhood in LA. We had wonderful friends all around us. I mean, to me, I love living there. So I was just like, how can we be this happy but willing to walk away from it? And I kept saying, we're going to have challenges if we stay, we're going to have challenges if we go. And why don't we try this? I think, when we get to be 80, 90, we're going to look back and want to have done it. And so making decisions from that perspective is a big part. And we had a kick in the pants because my very, very close friend, who was like a brother to me, died of COVID at the age of 36. So that was a big push. So unfortunately, here we go talking about mortality again. But when we have people close to us pass away, it's this push to really go for it or really do the things we want to do, whether we like it or not. I wish we made those decisions in the better circumstances, but here we are.
Yes. Well, first off, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
But you kind of said what I was going to say is what can help us to make those crazy decisions not in the time of turmoil and tragedy? What can potentially push us to not have to wait for that?
Huh. It's so we talked about the death anxiety. I talked to my friend about that the other day and she said it's good that you have that death anxiety because that reminds you every single day to live the life that you want to live. And she reminded me of how famous philosophers and probably writers and playwrights, a lot of people of I don't know, olden days would have a skull on their desk. And I don't know if it was a real skull or an animal skull, but it was this symbol, and it reminds me of Edgar Allan Poe. It was this symbol of mortality and remembering to create and to be, creative and to be courageous in those ways. So we joke, one of these days I'll find a cool, not a real one, I don't know if I can handle that, but like, I don't know, a pink studded skull and put it on my desk.
So, tip
That's
of
my
the
tip.
day, go
Yes,
get a skull. Go
go
get a
get a skull.
skull in a legal
Yes,
way.
yes, yes,
Like,
yes.
we must preface this. Don't go
Yes.
bash somebody on the head and be like, "But they
No,
told me to go get a skull."
no, no, no. Dear Lord,
No.
yes, please.
Whatever's legal, get a skull that way.
Yes.
Stud it with pink
Yeah, I'm talking about like
rhinestones.
a fake, made of plastic, made of Play-Doh.
Right.
Yes, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
go to the Halloween store and
Yes, there we go.
grab a skull.
Yeah. Which is so funny because it feels so morbid to have. But hey, if it's going to remind you to live more fully, do what you need to do, as long as it's nice and safe and kind.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, we are
Uh,
going to talk a little bit about tattoos
all right.
because I love tattoos. This is one of the few times I'm in short sleeves because,
Uh,
like you, I am in a cold climate and you
uh,
can't see them all. But I have a lot of tattoos,
oh,
so
cool.
I know that you don't have
I
tattoos, and
don't.
that's okay. We're still family. But what
Yeah.
I would love to know is if you were going to get a tattoo and
Mhm.
all the traditional barriers were gone. So it's not going to hurt, it won't cost you anything,
Mm.
and you can snap your fingers and make it go away if you need to
Okay.
for that important business meeting or performance.
Okay.
So what would you get and where would you put it?
Because of okay, so usually my answer is I have no idea what I would get. But because of what we just talked about, if I were to do it tonight, I would get a little skull, a cute feminine skull. And my cockapoo is now rolling around 'cause she
I
probably
love it.
and I've always thought like right here is a cool place, or the wrist,
Mhm.
or the back of the ear. So I have like three. I guess I should get three someday.
I
But I
love
don't
it.
know. I just think it's cool. Like when you reach for something, you just notice it
Yes.
or hear. I like
If
that
you
slightly hidden.
if you put it there too, maybe you could make it talk like when you move
There
your
you go.
hand.
Make it a mustache. I keep looking at your nails. What is on them? I have to ask.
Oh, yeah, so for those who can't see, I
Hi.
have some fancy schmancy birthday nails going on.
What was your birthday?
Monday, so a week from today is my
Oh,
birthday.
happy Yay!
Thank you. So yeah, they're black on the corners and then glitter
Oh,
throughout.
they're
My
cool.
best friend picks our nails.
Oh,
So we
so
go
fun.
together like every 3 weeks. She picks our nails and yeah, she
That's so
rocks it
fun.
out.
It's
So
nice that you let her pick. That's real trust.
yes, I don't know if I'd let her pick a tattoo. Well, actually, we have matching tattoos, so I have let her
Really?
pick a
What are they?
tattoo.
Because I can ask.
They're little ghosts, so we call each other Boo Boo,
Oh,
and so we each have a ghost, and
oh,
then each ghost is holding a puzzle piece, and the puzzle together is the Japanese kanji for strength. So
that's beautiful.
together we are stronger.
That is so beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
love that. See, that's a great reason to get a tattoo.
I mean, I don't hate it, you know? I so do you not have tattoos for any particular reason or you just
No.
don't have them?
I've just never felt passionate enough about an image or an icon or a word to get it. Yeah, I went with a friend once. This was my favorite. We had to pick my husband up from the airport and I was like, I have like 45 minutes. What should we do? Do you want to keep hanging out? Because we just finished dinner. And she's like, I could go get a tattoo. And I was like, yeah, I want to be there for that. Let's do that. And it was only her second one, and she had no idea what she was getting on the way there. And I was just like freaking like, what? Okay, so what you don't know where you're gonna
This is
go?
happening.
Yeah. And the tattoo artist was like, oh, you don't have any tattoos, do you? And I was just like, it's only her second. Like if it was her seventh, I could see being a little more cavalier about what she was choosing. But it was only her second tattoo.
Right.
And I think she got an anchor on the bottom of her foot, which was cool. Yeah.
Oh, I like
How
that.
many do you have? Or
I
do you
don't a
count?
lot.
Sleeves?
No, I can't anymore. Yeah, because it's like is this one and this is two?
Yeah.
I don't know. So a
Yeah.
lot. I will never get them on my face, my neck, or my chest.
Oh,
And that's just
okay.
me.
Yeah.
Everybody else to each their own, but I do judge people with face and neck tattoos. So,
We're all see, judgment, we all do it.
right.
Well,
And I admit that. It's
yeah.
fine.
It's literally a survival mechanism. Like we have to look at things and say, I'm not interested in that. I don't want
Yeah,
that in my life.
that is not
Yeah.
for me, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And yet, I don't know. There's a place where it's too much.
Right. Kaylee, where can people find you? So,
Yeah.
if they love you as much as I do, which of
Thank
course they do,
you.
if they want to hear Stand Up and your other music
Yes.
and be ready for April 7th when
See?
the
Good
next song
memory.
is coming out,
Yes.
or if they want to pop in, to your house with a tattoo needle and throw that talking skull on your hand, where can
Please
they
don't.
find you?
Well, I'm no longer listing my address, which is
Right.
obviously what I've done before. No, but you can find me everywhere on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Instagram, everywhere except for TikTok. Caley. C as in a cat, which I don't have. I have a dog. Aley. Rose as in the flower. And on TikTok, it's at Caley Rose Music because someone else had Caley Rose, which is someday I'll buy it off of them. But yeah, Storm is coming out April 7th. And if you want to book music with a message in your school or your niece's school, or it's not just for girls, I formulate the program for all students. We have a lot of fun and I customize it for each school. So, like, one school in Kansas was doing songwriting that week. So, we talked about that and self esteem. But I bring confidence tools into schools, and you can book me on my website at CaleyRose.com, or not at, but just CaleyRose.com.
I love
Yeah.
it. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
being amazing. You are my favorite, and I appreciate you hanging out with me.
Thank you. You're so good to talk to you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media so you'll never miss what's going on. Remember, until next week, you are strong enough, you are worth it.
Thank you for listening to the Strong Enough podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching Strong Enough. And on YouTube, we're on the Spear Talk channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Strong Enough Pod. If you have suggestions for an upcoming episode or a future guest, please reach out at strongenoughpod@gmail.com. Remember, you are worth it.